The fires of the sun burn around Thor as he reaches his arm out. No. Take both my eyes, but do not take this from me. He struggles, reaching out as his eye is burned out of his head. Don't take the last piece of my Mjolnir. It's all that makes me Thor. He screams as the last bit of his ancient hammer slips through his fingers, disappearing into the white-hot heat of the sun. The chunk of Uru disappears and is replaced by a great storm that threatens to tear apart the very sun itself. As the wind rips a screaming roar of fury from Thor's throat, he has found his answer. He knows how to win the War of the Realms. This is the Comicstorian channel. You have stumbled upon one of those weird parts of YouTube, and it is here that you can find your favorite comic books, video games, and movies, recapped into an audio drama synopsis. I try to make things sound as epic as humanly possible, throwing in some cool music, so that you can catch up on your favorite storylines in your favorite pop culture while carrying on with your busy life. The War of Realms is crazy long and sprawling. Long story short though, the 9 realms led by Malekith have attacked Earth, and everyone has lost. But fear not, as you just heard, Thor is going to lead the charge. Now, let's not waste any more time. In Asgard, at the far end of time, the 3 daughters of King Thor continue to read from an ancient book, when suddenly they stop. Wait. It says that Thor's allies travel to the far future. You don't think that means? That's when the room is suddenly split by a glowing beam of light. Hey there, young ladies, don't suppose you could point us to? Ben Grimm asks as he sticks his head through the time portal. Yet his words are interrupted as King Thor stalks into the chamber, clad in his armor, armed for war. I am here, he growls, staring at the faces that he has not seen in a long time. I've been waiting for this day for a millennia. All-Father Thor is ready for war. Back in the present day, Thor sits among the ruins of Asgard, his body covered in burns, his lost eye covered. The challenge would seem impossible, yet Yggdrasil has given him the answer. If only Thor can save the day, then we simply need more Thors, he says, turning to All-Father Thor from the future. The old man nods gruffly. By my beard, it worked once before. He responds, looking at the younger self with one good eye. The years have not been kind to you, boy. You look like hell. You look like me. Are any of you one-eyed geezers going to compare miladies all morning, or is there an actual war to be fought here? Young Thor asks, entering the chamber with his axe over his shoulder. The god of Vikings did not come all this way to Yammer. The oldest Thor stands, turning to his younger self. Ah, splendid! You brought the arrogant, unworthy one. All-Father Thor nods. What? Was the frog not available? The younger Thor smiles at his future. At least I've still got all my body parts, you half-crippled old troll fart. Yet Thor knows that they will need them all. There is power in this trinity of Thors, and they need all of their fists for this fight, whether they hold a hammer or not. My fists and hammer agree, Lady Thor states, as she comes strolling into the room, the hammer of War Thor in her hands. Great! Everyone has a hammer but me, young Thor sighs. Thor questions how Jane is even standing there as Thor, and she looks at him explaining that the hammer of War Thor is trying to tear itself apart even now. We should move quickly, Thor, she tells him. Thor nods, so they shall. The war party of Thors shall move with all the rage and howling wrath of a storm. A storm for the Odin-damned ages. The thunder sounds across the realms as the Thors fly across the air, lightning flashing like stars exploding. Rain falling from the fury of hammers. Every eye lifts to the skies with fear and wonder to behold the coming storm of Thors. The battle wages across Midgard over the streets of New York City, with Iron Man and Human Torch cutting through the frost giants as Frank Castle's voice directs the heroes over their comms. Frank, you are so in your element. It is adorable. Tony smirks over the radio. Frank doesn't even pause as he continues to fire his weapon at his enemies, moving alongside his elven squad. War is war. Giants just take more bullets is all, he says before ordering his fighters to keep sweeping the streets. Captain America and Black Panther stand before the mighty Loveland, king of the Frost Giants. Stand down, Loveland. Your fight is lost, Cap orders. The Queen of the Angels is dead. Amara and Ulik are in chains. Your allies are falling, Black Panther adds, but the king of the Giants merely smiles. Loveland never had allies, the giant tells them, holding up a casket in his massive hands. The king throws the casket into his mouth, with his eyes suddenly beginning to glow. The great giant takes a massive breath, suddenly blowing a mighty blizzard through the streets of New York, throwing the heroes away. All except one. Daredevil, the god without fear, pushes through the blast of icy wind, the sword of Heimdall clutched in his hands. "Have at thee, son of Jotunheim!" he cries, leaping forward. "For Hell's Kitchen!" The skies alight with lightning and thunder echoing across Stonehenge as Meleketh looks up, his forces surrounding him. "Do you hear that rumble? He's coming," he says to the Dark Elves, covered in the dark tendrils of the Venom symbiote. "Your war is lost, Meleketh. Run for your wretched life while you can." Freya spits from her chains. Yet the Dark Elf merely turns, tendrils of the symbiote snaking over his face as his mouth turns into a malicious smile. "The War of the Realms is such a thing of grisly beauty. Without a doubt, one of my proudest, most murderous moments." He grins. "But killing Thor in front of his parents, that will be my bloody masterpiece." Beaten and bloodied, Freya turns as much as she can to her husband hanging beside her. "Tell me, husband, who do the gods pray to in times like this?" she asks. Though beaten, Odin's voice is strong. "Pray to Thor if you like, wife. Although something tells me he won't hear you over the thunder." Lightning suddenly cracks across the ground, and the mighty Thors are amongst their enemies. "Meleketh, I've come for my parents," Thor bellows. "And for your head," Jane adds, her own words the sound of booming thunder. Yet Meleketh laughs. He has more than Dark Elves at his side now. Venom has been engorged by his magics. Black wings spread from his back as his own forces twitch amongst the dark tendrils. "You may call me the Butcher of Thors!" he cackles before turning to his men. "Kill the parents! The Thunderers belong to me." The Thors do not hesitate, throwing their hammers, calling their foes parents, Jane states. "Spider elves." All-Father Thor growls. "Meleketh," Thor nods. "Great, I guess I'll get the dogs," young Thor pouts. Back in New York, though, Daredevil leaps, throwing his sword at Lofri as the blood turns to slush in his veins from the Frost Giant's attack. The sword bounces across his eyes, finally landing on his throat. "Was that supposed to hurt?" The King of the Giants laughs as he swallows the blade whole. "Your sword is nothing more than a snack for the mighty Lofri." The Frost Giant peers down at Daredevil, who now stands with nothing more than his fists. The giant takes another deep breath and begins to blow the blizzard that would turn Midgard into a barren wasteland of ice. Yet suddenly, all of Earth can hear the storm. It explodes from the very sun itself, and the star becomes an eye. A storm unparalleled, with winds that would raise a world. A storm to end all of time, or save it. "By the gods! How could you be this slow?" Young Thor laughs as his axe cleaves another of the Hellhound's heads from its body. But All-Father Thor keeps swinging his hammer, the Uru connected with another Dark Elf symbiote. "How can you be so reckless? Watch your back, boy! If you get your full self killed, we all die! At what age did I become my father?" Elsewhere, Lady Jade is fighting her way to the King and Queen of the Gods, bellowing her rage. Above them, Thor and Meleketh fight, the axe Jornborn swinging and taking a chunk out of the Dark Elf. Thor tries to follow up with a swing with his hammer, but the symbiote lashes out, throwing him to the earth. "Remember when I lopped off your arm with your own axe?" Meleketh hisses as his symbiote wraps around Thor's hammer, turning it into a dark mace. "I wonder what damage I could do with this." Thor reaches his hand out, trying to call upon his hammer, but the weapon doesn't respond, and it is the last hammer in all of Asgard. It is now lost to the enemy. "Behold, the black hammer of the accursed!" The enemy howls as he launches towards Thor, swinging his new weapon. But Lady Jane is there, her own hammer blocking Meleketh's assault. "Nay, we Thors are harder to kill than you can imagine," she cries. But Meleketh's tongue, sharpened by the symbiote, attempts to pierce her. She dodges, she shifts, crying out, "Ka! Verily, that is disgusting!" Meleketh is pushed back as the fist of Thor connects with his hammer. "Congratulations, Thor! I see you finally gone mad!" But Thor merely presses his attack, screaming with rage. "Behold, the berserker madness of Thor!" he bellows. His fists connect again and again, yet Meleketh knocks him away. "I will beat you to death with your own damned hammer!" Thor tries to struggle to his feet, but the symbiote wraps around him, holding him down as Meleketh comes in for the final swing. But that's when Thor gets his hand up, and the black tendrils of the hammer pierce his flesh. The energy crackles around Thor, his eyes sparking with lightning. All I need to finish you, Meleketh, is a good, hard rain. Suddenly, the earth is enveloped by a rain of fire. And across the world, the heroes of the realm look up, seeing the storm swirling above their heads. Meleketh stares upwards, his smile briefly faltering as the flames begin to lick the symbiote. Is that all you've got? In Svartalfheim, it rains fire every Thorn's Day, he hisses, but Thor smiles. I know your symbiote's weakness. I haven't been wielding the God Tempest this entire time so that I can make it rain, he says, standing to his feet as the Venom tendrils shrink away. From the storm comes something, and it hits the earth with an explosion that shakes the very ground around them. The smoke clears, revealing a hammer. The Uru is held by a branch of the World Tree, forming a handle that twists with power. On the metal is burned an inscription known throughout the realms. Whosoever wields this hammer, if they be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. I used it for forging. Hello, old friend. Thor smiles. His friends and family watch stunned as the bodies of their enemies lay around them. By the gods, he did it! Odin gasps. The fires burn around them as Thor walks forward, with Meleketh keeping pace. You can't pick it up, you're not! But Thor reaches down, the energy cracking off the hammer and into his outstretched hand. What I truly am, Meleketh, now and forevermore. The hammer seems light, as if it never weighed anything at the time. The power of the storm and the fire swirl around him, and in the distance, the thunder rumbles once again. It's the god of the unworthy. Thor swings the hammer in one massive blow, the metal connecting with Meleketh's face, throwing him to the ground, ending the war. Defeated, the symbiote swirls away from the fallen elf, leaving him nothing more than broken on the ground. The hammer does not make the Thor makes the hammer. Jane simply states, walking up behind Thor, her own hammer cracking further. Not long for this world. They both stare at it. It should be good for one last hurl. In New York, the blizzard continues to blow as Loveland, the king of the giants, prepares to usher in the new age of giants. And suddenly, he's cracked on the side of the head by a massive hammer, blood gushing as his eyes fall loose. Who threw that? He bellows. Yet his words are cut short as a slice appears in his stomach. Purple blood begins to flow, and the wound erupts as the swirls of an endless winter blows from his open gut. His scream of pain echoes through the city as he falls, and from his stomach stands a blood-soaked Loki. The casket of an endless winter in one hand, and the sword of the daredevil in the other. What's wrong, father? Was it something you ate? At Stonehenge, Meleketh tries to struggle to his feet, raising his black hammer once again, his screams lashing out as young Thor takes off his arm with Jornborn. The group of Thors surround him, but still he doesn't completely fall. You're finished, Meleketh. Your war has ended, Thor tells him. No! Meleketh screams, his voice becoming high-pitched. My armies may be lost, but I am still the Lord of the Wild Hunt! He screams, ordering his dogs to kill the Thors. Thor tries to stop him, telling him that the beast can smell his fear. I have no fear! Meleketh bellows as the animals grow closer. He turns, with the monsters lashing out, their teeth sinking into his body. He screams, but this only drives them into a frenzy. They raise into the sky, tearing his limbs off. The war has ended. The heroes of Midgard cheer in the streets of New York. The hammer does return to Jane, but it begins to dissolve even as it grows closer. She knows it was worth it to feel the storm one last time. The hammer explodes, showering her with golden light and energy, and when it dissipates, she stands there with a golden arm brace. What the hell just happened? She questions. So, throughout the 10 realms, the cheers of victory and an end to the war can be heard. Thor looks up into the coming dawn, with Mjolnir clasped once again in his hands. Odin stands before his son, stunning him as he falls to his knees. All hail the rightful Lord of Asgard, the savior of realms. All hail All-Father Thor. And that concludes the epic known as the War of the Realms right here at Comicstorian. I hope you guys enjoyed this every week coverage of the War of the Realms with some of the tie-ins. We're gonna still be doing a couple of the tie-ins, but these are gonna be the ones that are basically flagged as being War of the Realms, but they're not really in the overall event. So we're still gonna be doing the Deadpool one, and I believe there's one other one that we're talking about doing. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please consider subscribing to the channel so you can get more action right here at the Comicstorian channel. We cover a lot of video games, comic books, and movies, giving you synopses on all of them. And you can also find early access to everything that we do over at our Patreon by joining the Comicstorian Premium Membership Program over there. For only $2, you get access to everything. We aim to put everything up at least 3 days early. Sometimes it goes up months early, if you saw what happened with the Green Arrow video recently. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for your continuing support, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.